All right, so we're going to review some of the groups, not the groups, I mean the quarterfinals, and we're going to begin with FPX versus Fnatic. It's a very interesting one because I don't think it's going to be that one-sided as people make it out to be. I think stylistically, Fnatic has definitely gained a lot of confidence over this weekend when they beat SKT and RNG. So we might see some massive improvements when it comes to Fnatic and their overall level. So I think the first initial week was no depiction of what Fnatic is. FPX, the same way. The first game that they played, it was LWX, completely choking and throwing the game. But let's begin with FPX and my general assessment coming into this matchup. I think individually, I think almost everyone on that team has performed worse than they did during the regular season or during the finals, which is strange. I don't think there is anything to amount to that beyond the lack of experience. You know, the lack of experience in FPX is very evident because during the regular season over in the LPL, they were destroying everyone. Really destroying everyone, finding this flow in the game where they're playing through mid to pressure the whole map with unique picks and unique combinations that allow them to pressure the whole game. And this is something that we saw very rarely of. We saw it in the first game where LWX ran it down when FPX don't find the way to piece this together. I think in some of the drafts that they did at this tournament, it was looking quite crazy. Like, we're gonna bring up some of their statistics from Plus Phoenix. Some other games, World Championship. We had, for example, the first game that they lost, the second game that they lost against Splice. The direction they were trying to head in was just non-existent. If you take a look at this game, Splice as a team is regarded generally slow, and they couldn't find any opening, they couldn't find any cohesion here. Against YamatoCannon, they couldn't find an opening, and the same way Galio into Akali, they couldn't find an opening. Eventually, Splice managed to find some kills onto Gimgoon. And then there was the big fight on bottom that Akali that was won because Crisp managed to get caught, and what's it called? Akali was already chunking Galio before the fight started. So Splice, they waited for their moments to pounce. They found a kill onto Gangplank in this game. And eventually there was this big fight on bottom where Akali got super fed and Zai got super fed, and then the game kind of fell apart. And in this game, FPX, if you look at their draft, they do have a lot of opportunities in terms of Nautilus Kaiser, Lee Sin, maybe Akali on the mid lane that has no cleanse with the lead that can spot, Akali in the Shroud with the Q. There were definitely some options here for FPX to create some activity, but they just didn't. And that's the weirdest part, because as a team they are very good in regular seasons to create activity. They are usually one of the most active teams, and this was a very uninspiring game. Very uninspiring. And I think FPX are definitely not playing to their level. I think a lot of their individual players are looking like shells of what they can be, and I think they were very lucky to be in a weaker group, because in a different scenario, I think they would, if they play against, if they had, for example, if they were in the group with SK Telecom, and they couldn't be with SK Telecom. Let's say they were in a group with Griffin and Fnatic, they would have absolutely no chance, because the level of play has been that poor. Absolutely no chance. And I bring this up as a point because there is a lot of room for growth. Not in the sense that they're going to be magically better, just in the sense that they can be better than they've shown from what they've shown in the past. In the finals against RNG, they played very well. They played around the timings, around mid lane, and spread the pressure. GameGoon was also someone that was heralded as one of the better players coming into the tournament. I was very hyped for Tian as well. Crisp was my highest rated support. But I just haven't seen that level of play from FPX yet, and that is what causes me some worries. So either this series is going to be close, or it's going to be a quick 3-0 from Fnatic, honestly. I think if FPX continue with the same level that they've shown, then Fnatic is going to eat them alive. Definitely. So when it comes to FPX, they're doing their crazy drafts. The Galio mid lane, something that I thought more mid laners would play, because this is what people were spamming in solo queue. This was the Renekton mid game into Syndra, which is also kind of kooky, you know, kind of weird. This game started kind of strange for FPX because Ryze was dying over and over on top and GP was ahead. But then all of a sudden the game kind of blew up because Renekton killed Syndra with Gragas, and then they managed to snowball through that, and Vayne got transitioned into the late parts of the game in good fashion. But even this game was quite cocktail. Was quite cocktail indeed. So this was by no means a convincing victory from FPX that makes them look like a quarter-finals winner. But I'm going to leave FPX with the notion that they are, you know, in a position where they can only go higher. Their individual players can be a lot better. LWX, I was never really sold on him. I think he was overhyped by many. Doinby expressed the same issues during groups as he has had always, is that his laning is not that great. He needs to play together with his team. So when Doinby is left alone to fend for his own, he tends to look worse. When he gets to play with Tian and Crisp, then he looks a lot better. And that's the drafting and the plays that FPX always need to look for. They need to find scenarios where they can shock the enemy and find roams that they do not expect. And that will only last you that long. But it's important to not underestimate FPX. There is a world where this finals becomes very close. I mean, this quarterfinals becomes very close. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see, pretty much. Let's just take a look at this draft as well. Game going on Renekton. Renekton is something that's been banned in many other games. They got away with picking it twice in a row here. Renekton Elise, very easy execution, and Doinby Ryze is something that works very well for him. This game, to be honest, I didn't see it. It was a massive blowout. 23 minutes. Nevertheless, on to Fnatic. Fnatic had their heroic run where they just beat RNG, and of course, SK Telecom. Something that is important to highlight is in both of these games, they managed to get a very similar draft. So the key three picks here is Xayah, Gragas, and Gangplank. Gangplank, Whippo is very good at laning with Gangplank. He's inspired many Gangplank players all over the world to go all in level 1. Gragas is one of Broxah's signature champions. He's been playing it always when he has had an opportunity to do so. And then Xayah. So here on red, they were allowed to pick Xayah. This was... I don't remember the draft order of it, but my point still stands. Veigar was last picked. Nemesis has a very interesting champion pool that works in a way where, you know, he's picking what is going to be strong in team fights later on. Doesn't always pick for matchup, picks for comfort, and if he gets a good matchup on comfort, that's like the ideal. For example, the last game against RNG, they managed to get Cassio. That was generally decent against enemy team composition. Gnar, Ezreal. Ezreal is kind of good into Cassio, to be fair. Casio was good into Rise. Veigar was a great pick here into the team. Twisted Fate is another good one that everyone's been banning the whole group stage. So I think Nemesis definitely has some strong pocket picks, and they've solved the issue that is like the potential 2v2 mid lane. And I think that's what makes this matchup against FPX so interesting, is because I don't think necessarily, I think in a world where FPX pressure mid and pressure sides through mid, Fnatic can run into some issues. FPX at their best is when they're playing through mid with champions that can roam very hard and hit very hard, and this is not a Fnatic that we've seen the recent times. It's not the same Fnatic where they're pressuring 3-man into mid and then pressuring the map. This Fnatic is a very predictable Fnatic where they want to pressure through bottom at all costs. And I've always been saying that teams that pressure through mid have an edge. They definitely have an edge. And I think FPX stylistically can be the team that causes Fnatic some issues. I think Fnatic is very good when they get leads, when they get to this point. In this game against SK Telecom, they got away with a lot because SK Telecom managed to do many mistakes. They did 2 dives onto top, which gave Gangplank a lot of space. He could have potentially solo killed as well. When they dove him the second time, the first dive, Broxa was in position. Broxa could have potentially gotten away with 2 kills. Akali diving Veigar, resulting in a disaster. And then here it even started in a way where Leona was 0-2, and that was the way through. Fnatic need to play through bottom, and Kaiser Ali was super far ahead in this game. But everything changed the moment SKT dove mid. They gave a triple kill away, and then Fnatic collapsed onto the Rift Herald. Reckless was pushing bottom, TP'd onto the Rift Herald. They got a big fight, and their team composition outscaled super hard. And then we got to see what Fnatic is good at. They're good at accelerating leads. When they get leads, they accelerate very well. So here, FPX, if we think about the matchups, it's very important that, to highlight more of Fnatic's strengths, is they're good at accelerating leads, they're good at playing through bottom. I'm just worried about Fnatic. I'm not as hyped on Fnatic as people want to be, because it's GP Gragas Xayah. They're facing a team, FPX, that can pick these champions away. They can pick the Gangplank away. All of a sudden, how does that look like? They could potentially play the Renekton, which is something that Fnatic doesn't want to play. They want to leave Whip on island. What is the next in line that follows? What are the champions that are next in line that follows the Fnatic recipe? If Xayah gets banned, all of a sudden are we going to see a Tristana, maybe? Are we going to see a Tristana, a Kai'Sa? Can they play through bottom the same way? When Fnatic will be forced to adapt within the draft, where maybe Xayah bans come in. Maybe in this game, this series against FPX, they will never be allowed to play a Xayah. What's gonna happen then? That is the biggest question mark for me, because here, while the Fnatic recipe is good and all, what are the next ingredients in line when all of a sudden, your cinnamon is out, your pepper and your salt? I don't know what we're cooking here. That sounds disgusting, but you get my point. If Gragas, GP, and Xayah are out, what's gonna happen next? Sure, Broxa has Elise. That's easy to solve. Broxa has Elise. He has Lee Sin. He has, and I guess that's about it. He has these champions. Bwipo. Gangplank is a very specific champion that Vichichachi also really loves, because they're playing in a very similar way. They're leaving the top laner on an island, GP on an island. It's funny that he's a pirate and he's left on an island, but you get my point. GP is left on an island, and he ults and impacts the whole map, and both Chachi and Bwipo play this champion very well. There is very few champions in top lane that can be handled the same way. And we've seen some Vladimir, we've seen some Kayle in this tournament that have been isolated. But you guys know how I feel about Kayle. And Bwipo, Vladimir could be a thing, but it's all about how can Fnatic continue to follow this recipe. What are the next champions? Because that's the only thing they need to figure out. When the draft starts, Zaya's banned, they first pick Gragas and FPX pick Gangplank, what's gonna happen to the draft? That's the big question. Bwipo played some Vladimir against Chachi. If they continue down the same line, I think they're going to be the better team against FPX. I think if FPX level up their play and it looks more similar to what we saw in the regular season, I think the series can be much closer than people would like to admit. But FPX have also shown that they're very sloppy in later parts of the game, and Fnatic punish very, very hard. And I think when you make mistakes against Fnatic or any of the teams that are considered higher level, Muffin, don't lick the table. Muffin, please. Muffin has this tendency of licking tables. Just randomly start hitting him. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Muffin, please, 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 please. I'm begging you here. Begging you. Right? Okay. Thank you. Very nice of you. But don't go to that table. What do you mean? Okay. I lost my train of thought completely. I think there's two ways this series goes out. Either a complete stomp or 3-2 Fnatic. Either way, I think Fnatic is going to be the team that wins. I think it's just super important that Fnatic continue down the same line of this is how we need to play. This is how we need to play. We need to play through bottom. We need to play in a way where we draft that this thing works. Then I have faith in Fnatic reaching the point in the game where they can accelerate, play around team fights, play around roams, play around pressuring the map, because this is their strength. Their biggest struggle has been when they don't have an avenue to play through and they get heavily outscaled by the enemy. That's the biggest struggle for them, and I don't think that works when they play APs on bottom. So my prediction, Fnatic win, either 3-2 or 3-0. FPX might choke on a bigger stage and play even worse than they did before because of the lack of experience. Fnatic has a lot of experience under their belt, and I have high hopes for this series. I think 3-2 is fair because I think FPX, if they can play through mid, I don't think Nemesis plays the right champions to punish a Doinby. I don't think he has the Cassio Ryze matchup, but Doinby is a great Ryze. I think this is something that he lanes better on, and we'll have to see how that kind of shapes out. But I think the biggest thing that we need to pay attention to will be Fnatic is going to pressure from bottom into mid. Will LWX and Crisp fall and crack under the pressure? Can FPX pressure through mid with the champions that have the globals into bottom? And also how Fnatic solve the potential issues in draft, meaning, GP is a very important champion, Gragas is a very important champion, Xayah is a very important champion. What happens when these are out? Because I think Xayah is going to be permabanned by FPX. Gangplank is going to be picked on red when enemy first pick Gragas, for example, and then all of a sudden we have this draft scenario that's going to be very new, and I'm hoping that Fnatic are going to be ready for this, because all I know is why I have high hopes for why they can is Fnatic showed adaptation in the series against G2, and I think adapting against G2 is much harder than it is to adapt against FPX. And with that being said, I think they're prepared for these bans to come. I have a lot of faith in Fnatic's adaptation abilities, and they should be happy about the draw. So we'll have to see. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. We will see what team we choose. All the best to you. God bless you. If you sneeze during the video, bless your face. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.